You know, I am a fan. Yeah, I'm a fan of taking Steve first.
Steve? Okay, let's go with Steve. Okay, I think we have Steve. I clicked. Let me try one more time. Okay, now we have Steve. Steve, hi.
Salam alaikum. Peace be upon you. Happy Labor Day, weekend, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah, hi. Yeah,
hi.
Go ahead, I love your show. Yeah, I love. Yeah. Hi, I'm a repeat caller. Love your show, Armin. Salam alaikum.
Thank you.
Happy Labor Day weekend to you all. I am not a Muslim. I am a simulationist who has no idea what's outside the simulation, but perhaps it is Allah. So I'm going to respect Islam and all the world's major religions so I can have all my pastoral wagers covered. And I am not going to bash Islam because the great prophet consummated a marriage with a 9-year-old, because back then women couldn't live to be, the life expectancy wasn't that long back in those days of the great prophet. Correct?
I'm sorry, Armin. This is your gig. You go right ahead.
Well, actually, the age 9 was unusual even for Muhammad's time, given that we also have hadiths that people were questioning Muhammad's decision to marry somebody, to have sex with somebody this young. So even by that standard, the standard at their time, 9 was too young. Also, if you want to judge people by different standards, then we could, as long as we acknowledge that they are inferior standards. The whole point of having standards is for us to be able to have a framework for us to improve our well-being of individuals and society as a whole. So if you're saying, well, they had different standards, I agree, they had different standards. The point is that they are not good standards. They're inferior standards that you could say that they were their standards. Okay, yeah, well, we don't like their standards. Their standards are not the healthiest way to create a prosperous society where we're reducing harm as much as we possibly can. But you're saying that you are basically not going to disrespect Islam because Islam might be the true religion and you're trying to cover your bases. Well, I mean, if you want to cover all your bases, then you also have to disrespect Islam because there might be a God that was brought Islam to see if you would have enough sense to understand that Islam is vile, and would fight against all forms of harmful beliefs. And if you fail to do so, then he will send you to hell. So if you want to cover all your bases, maybe you should also consider insulting Islam, because that might be the thing that is expected of you to do. If you really want to cover all your bases.
You know who Lena Medina is? You ever hear of the name Lena Medina? Lena Medina of Peru. She was impregnated.
Did you hear what I said? Did you hear what I said?
5. Yes.
Are you going to respond to what I said? Because you were trying to do a Pascal's wager. You were trying to be not insulting or disrespectful to Islam, because you were trying to make sure that if Islam is the true religion, that you don't go to hell, right? But if you want to, based on that frame of mind, because you say you believe that we're in a simulation, I don't understand what your ideology is. But if you want to cover everything, it might be that there's a God. I mean, you can't rule this out, that is trying to see if you're going to basically stand up to harmful beliefs, including Islam. So based on that, are you going to do that as well? Because that could be one of the things that you're being tested on.
Well, Islamic hell is the worst. I mean, your flesh grows back and it burns off and it keeps going back and it's torment. So I'm definitely going to have respect for that belief. And I'm not going to.
Wait, what? I didn't understand what he's saying. Can somebody translate? Jimmy, what did he say?
He said that he's definitely going to have respect for Islam because their hell is by far the worst.
You don't know that. You don't know. I will just give you now a new religion, okay? It's called Arminism, right? And Arminus is its god, right? And the main, there's only one commandment that this God has. and the commandment is fight Islam as much as you possibly can, with the goal of absolutely destroying Islam. And anybody that does not do all the efforts necessary to try to contribute to this process will be tortured in ways that is beyond imagine. It's far more vile and torturous and disgusting and painful than anything that Islam has described in their books. And I just now introduced this religion, and now this is you should consider this as a possibility of something that is out there. So now you have to go dedicate your entire life to fighting Islam, because this is one of the options that are there. And again, this religion by definition has the worst hell, because it says that whatever pain anyone ever imagines or introduces is basically that times infinity, right? So by definition, it has the worst hell possible. So based on your wager, you trying to cover your ass, now you have to commit yourself to this religion that I just invented.
Well, you just invented it by your own admission. It's invented. It's fabricated. So of course I'm going to disregard that, because you just admitted that your religion's invented and made up.
You don't know that. You don't know that. That's a test from our God. Our God, Arminus, has made me say that I just invented it just to test you, to see what you're going to do. You don't know. Nothing is certain. It might be real. It might be real. It might not be real. Nobody knows. Just like Islam. Islam might be real. Islam might be not real.
Any fault in, you can't find any fault in the word of Muhammad. You can't find anything at fault that you could prove he ever said was wrong.
I have a question. He's saying that you can't find any fault in the word of Muhammad, and I think Armin would be better equipped to answer that. But I just want to ask you this: if you're a simulationist and you want to give respect to all religions, along the point that Armin is trying to make, the Christian Bible states that false prophets will come, right? How do you know that Muhammad was not a false prophet in line with the Christian Bible? And if you're going to adhere to Christianity to suffice your Pascal's wager bet, right? Then how do you go with that and with Islam without excluding the first one?
Well, I'm going to respect.
You anger the Christian God.
I pissed off the true God beliefs.
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
I'm going to respect both gods. So if one of them's true, I'm going to, not piss him off. The true God.
It's actually the same God.
If I don't respect him.
It's actually the same God, but what I'm talking about is, you're respecting. God. Right. Yeah, but you're respecting both religions, right? But one religion warns of false prophets coming. So how do you know that Muhammad is not a false prophet and that you are, in fact, actually shooting yourself in the foot by taking the bait on that one? How do you know that?
I can't prove Muhammad was a false prophet. There's no evidence he was false. He was never falsified.
There's no evidence that he ever existed, is there? I mean, what evidence do you have for any of this stuff?
I think that's evidence. There's tons of evidence of Muhammad's existence.
I'm not sure.
And unfortunately, he didn't have a son to carry on.
Right, but I'm saying the teachings.
What did he not have a son?
Steve, I'm just saying the teachings of Muhammad being the person that he says he was. Okay, how do you prove that any of that was true? And how do you prove that any of these religions are true? And how do you adhere to all of them? Are they not mutually exclusive in some way?
There's probably some overlap and there's probably some contradictions in each, but I'm going to still respect all of them.
Well, I don't know what you mean by respect, by respecting them. Respecting all of them.
I'm not going to mock them. I'm not going to mock their prophet. There's nothing wrong with his consummating a marriage with a 9-year-old when women at that time didn't even have a life expectancy.
All right, I'm glad that we circled back. I'm glad, Armin, do you want to
Steve,
jump in?
Steve.
I can take
Yeah,
this in
Steve.
another direction. Go ahead.
When you have sex with girls younger than 12 years old, okay, we have scientific evidence and we have so many cases of this being absolutely harmful, right? Right now, for example, in Africa, many people have sex with girls younger than 12 years old. And I don't want to discuss our audience, but there are.
Lena Medina
Yeah,
lived to age 90.
Hold
She
on,
gave
Steve.
birth
Do you
before she was
do you hear me talking? Do you hear me talking, Steve? Right. So, anyways, I'm not going to describe what happens, but just understand that there are certain things that happens to the woman's body to a girl's body when you have sex with them under 12 years old. That is, if I described it, it's absolutely disgusting. It's absolutely vile. This is such a harmful thing you could do to a girl's body. This is objectively true. And this is why what you're promoting, I'm glad that you're coming here and saying that you respect Islam. And at the same time, you're promoting the idea that maybe it's okay to have sex with a 9-year-old so that the audience can see what respect for Islam would lead you to believe in. This is for people to see what are these ideas that go hand in hand. The people who are saying that we should respect Islam are the same people who come out and say that maybe it's okay to have sex with a 9-year-old. This is independent of time and place, the fact that this is wrong. If your standard is the harm principle, if you care about human well-beings, if you care about people's reducing misery in the world, then it doesn't matter at what time you are. It doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter what century you're in. This has always been bad. This is not just recently bad. This has always been bad, right? And also, when you said Muhammad said nothing wrong, Muhammad said that every fly has poison in its one wing, and it has the cure for that poison in its other wing. So if a fly drops into your water that you're drinking from, make sure you dip it completely in the water so that if the poison has hit the water, the cure for that poison also enters the water, so that when you drink the water, if you're drinking poison, you also drink the cure for that poison as well. This is part of Islamic hadith. This is also Sahih hadith. So Muhammad said that. Also, your methodology in trying to cover your ass doesn't also work, because if these gods are if you consider these gods to be different gods, then these are admittedly by themselves very jealous gods. So if you say, I respect this God and I also respect that other God, you're also acknowledging those other gods. And these are gods that will punish you severely for even acknowledging these other gods, let alone respecting them. So that's not actually going to work. I'm sorry. You're going to be spending time in hell with the rest of us.
It depends on the biological maturity of the female as far as when it would be appropriate for them
Steve,
to bear children.
What makes you think that 1,400 years ago a woman couldn't live till their 40s, 50s, 60s, right? That was common. That doesn't mean, like, let's say the average life of a woman today is about, 82 or something, right? If it was 40 years less, so if it was 42 back then, that doesn't make 9 years old more mature. It just means the end of her life is cut short. It doesn't speed up in the beginning. You don't get to assault a child earlier because you're not going to have as much time with them in the end. That's what I hear you saying.
Can't believe we're still talking.
I am saying if a person's life expectancy is short, they're going to want to procreate at a younger age.
A 9-year-old is not going to want to procreate because they think they might die at 40. And if there's any 9-year-old that actually wants that thing, it's probably because their mind has been assaulted and indoctrinated by the generations that came before her. Any 9-year-old in their natural state is not looking for a sexual relationship with somebody that is decades their senior. And I just want to circle back before I let you off the hook on there's tons of proof of Muhammad. That's not true. Okay, you're making things up. Like, the accounts of Muhammad come like a century later after his death. It's the same story we have with Jesus. and the evidence doesn't equal proof. So these tales of Muhammad's life don't equal proof that he existed. So I just wanted to posit that on you. But I don't understand how you are stuck in this. You're stuck in this mindset where you have a justification for a sexual assault on a child. It's not good by any standard. It's not understandable by any standard. It shouldn't be allowed by any. You shouldn't worship a God that would allow that.
So what next? Are we going to make fun of Joseph Smith because? So are we going to make fun of Joseph Smith because he had sex with various women of various ages and marital status? So we're going to poke fun at Mormons next with their prophet?
I'm going to poke fun at them. I'm going to poke fun at the Pope for moving, at least Pope Benedict, for moving at least 4 members of the clergy in Europe to different dioceses so that they wouldn't get caught and prosecuted for crimes against children. All right, I'll poke fun at Catholicism all day long for that.
Steve, are you asking a bunch of atheists if they're going to make fun of other religious people are they going to be attacking other religious people for having sex with children? Like, oh, wow. Like, what did you expect from us? Huh.
Okay. You got me there. Anyway, you guys have a happy Labor Day. Thank you very much. Just be mindful and respectful and don't upset the religious people. Thank you.
Now, I don't have to be, you know what? I don't have to be cautious of religious people's feelings when they are supporting and justifying child rape. I do not have to do that. Nobody is required to walk on eggshells around people who have no problem, who are doing nothing to stop child rape. I'm sorry, Armin. I'm sorry. I'm angry.
No, that's good. You should be angry. Next time, remember, when people are asking you to respect Islam, they're asking you to respect an ideology that tells you that it's okay to rape a 9-year-old. Would you respect that? Would you respect, is that worthy of your respect? So thank you, Steve, for demonstrating that to us, that if you want to, the implications, because Steve wanted to respect Islam, and also he had to try to come up with a way to excuse this behavior from Prophet Muhammad. Yeah. So respecting Islam requires for you to come up with excuses for what Muhammad did, which includes raping a 9-year-old. And so if you do not go on.
Armin, on to that point, though, he wants to respect all religions to cover himself in Pascal's wager. That's what he said, right? But respecting religions doesn't mean that you believe in any of them, right? That's not what's going to get you into heaven. You know, just being nice to people who are religious doesn't mean that you're getting in. So think about that.
In fact, Allah has a name for that. Like, you would be one of the munafiqeen. So if you are respecting Islam but not being a Muslim, or just doing it out of fear, then technically you do not. You're a munafiq. You're just pretending just to cover your ass, and that's going to basically lead you to hell. So that's not going to actually work Islamically. At least according to Islam, that's not going to work. Yeah.
Armin, I have a question for you. So in college, I took a course called The Nature and Experience of Religion, and we had to review some parts of the Quran. I think it was very early on in the Quran that it says, and I don't remember how the Quran is structured, but it says something to the effect of, if you are supposed to be worshiping, but you're thinking about other things, then you are a non-believer and you'll be punished. Is that accurate? I think I remember that along those lines. And it was very early on in the Quran. You know, something to the effect of, if you're supposed to be in church and you're supposed to be paying attention to the teachings, but you're thinking about other things and you're not invested in the teachings, then you're pretending, and that's a sin or whatever.
Well, I mean, the Quran doesn't have specific instructions on how you're supposed to be praying, so I don't know exactly what verse you are referring to. The prayer instructions mostly come from the Hadith, and also which part of the Quran is early in the Quran or later in the Quran depends on what you mean, because the way the Quran is put together is not in the same order that it was revealed. It's actually pretty much the opposite. So if early on, you mean early on in the book or early on in the revelation process? So I don't know which one you're referring to. But I don't know exactly what verse you're referring to. Maybe you could send me the verse after.
Yeah, I think I will. I think I'm talking about early on in the book, but I digress. I apologize.